They're kind of stocky. In fact, one was captured in the Mojave Desert in 1960, I believe, 60 or 61, and interrogated and then executed.
I see. And what about the Chinese? Who do you believe they're in contact with?
Yeah, the Chinese have a lot of contacts with the Rigelians. The Rigelians are interesting because there was a time they were very human-looking, but their world had nuclear war. They were attacked. They had nuclear, and over the generations they deteriorated so that they looked very whitish gray skin. They have very round, dark-colored eyes, very sharp noses, very thin lips. They basically look like very sick human beings who have been irradiated, and they are the ones who help to create the so-called little grays. The ones who look about 4 feet tall, the wraparound black eyes, slits for nose and mouth, very skinny, long limbs, and they move very slowly. That's the typical alien being that most people see in their abduction scenarios. But I would tell people, if you took a picture of these little grays who claim to be from Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2, and you put their picture next to a human fetus, they would be almost identical. And that is because they are a created race. They take fetuses and grow them to larger proportions and then mind control them, and that's what the gray race really is. And that's why they're dying out, because they're hormonally deficient. They cannot digest food. They're completely subject to the whims of their controllers. So that's their controllers are the Draco. Well, yes, but also the Rigelians, and even there are beings from Sirius A. Now, the beings from Sirius A have created a race on Vega. The Vegans look like very tall grays, and many abductees have reported these, 6 and 7 foot tall grays along with these little tiny grays. And the taller grays are from Vega, and they are created by the race of Sirius A. And they're also workers or slaves. What is your view of the Anunnaki that are referred to by Sitchin as the Anunnaki? Yes. They are a race that supposedly had to do with originally genetically engineering the human beings here. Yeah, they were creating slaves to work in the mines in Africa. On the world that was either called, depending on the civilization, Nibiru or Marduk. Okay, but do you believe they're still here, and do you believe that there's a group of them returning? Well, let me explain what happened. I wrote about this in 2003. In March of 2003, the U.S. invaded Iraq. Underneath Baghdad are stargates that were connecting to Nibiru. In April 2003, the planet of Nibiru, or what Sitchin described, was blown up as it passed Jupiter by particle beam accelerator weapons. And in fact, NASA reported the large chunks of this planet flying into the sun and reported it on their webcam or sun cam, which showed these huge chunks flying into the sun. And that is why even now we still are getting these asteroids and pieces of rock flying into our atmosphere and flybys between the moon and the Earth. This is the debris, the residue of that. I also believe that a remnant, or some of them, were rescued by this Kuiper's Belt group. So in that effect, there are some survivors, but that planet has been destroyed. Okay, but do you believe that the Anunnaki have been ruling this Earth, and do you believe they're coming back? No, I don't believe they were ruling this Earth. I think they were simply mining it and used it, but they did not control it. Okay, so who do you feel has been controlling the planet? Up until this last part of this 20th century, it was the reptilians who completely controlled everything, that our civilization, our religion, our political system, until the Illuminati decided to break away from certain factions. And you were calling this control a positive thing? No, of course not. No control is positive. Mind control is not positive. Any control that takes away free will is not positive.
Okay, but originally you talked about the Illuminati being at war with the Dracos, and you're saying the Dracos used to run the planet and they're trying to take it back. And I mean, because where I'm just curious where you're seeing the positive side of the Draco race.
I'm not seeing any positive side of them.
Okay.
I can't see a positive. It's like saying, is there a positive side of the Nazis? It's asking me the same kind of question.
Okay, but you're saying that there's an effort to bring this planet back into the Draconian Empire,
yes.
Right? So I'm assuming the Draconian Empire would be ruled by Dracos.
Correct.
Okay. And
there are a lot of factions, a lot of beings out there want to control this planet, not just them.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
So when you're saying you're saying the Illuminati are working, in other words, we would all join the Illuminati if they were actually going to break away from the Dracos, in my view. The trouble is, I don't think that's really going to happen. So, I do understand that you're saying that there are some positive Draconian beings or Draco beings, but, what I'm kind of curious, in other words, is what's your view of the sovereignty of this planet and where it should be heading, for example?
Well, that's the whole point of the work that I do. I think we should be in charge of ourselves without any outside influence or control. If we were to create the ability to take back our own minds and control our own experiences and remove the oppression or the victimization mentality that's pervasive on this planet, then all of this will not happen. Then we can remove all of these oppressors from our midst. That's what I would like to see. The Earth develop on its own with its own mind pattern and its own connections to the God mind within, and develop independently instead of being attacked and controlled by every force out there that has its own agenda. That's what I would like to see.
Okay, well that's very good to hear. What is your view of the stargates and the purpose behind the stargates on the planet?
Well, that's, again, a question that needs to be delineated, because the original stargates that were put here a long time ago by alien civilizations were for the agenda of those civilizations. The stargates that have been built by the current powers on the Earth, the Illuminati, have an agenda of control from this point on the Earth to outside of the Earth. As far as a method of traveling, it's an excellent method of travel. However, if that travel is for the purpose of conquering and destroying, then it's not a good purpose.
Okay. But my understanding is that the various races that are here are also taking control, in other words, of various stargates, and that there is something of a war over those stargates, over the control of the stargates by various races. Are you aware of that?
Well, that's what I had mentioned earlier about the war going on under the ground, where there's actually human beings fighting internal or inner Earth beings for control of such devices. One of them, of course, the biggest location was under Baghdad, and that's one of the main reasons why the U.S. invaded Iraq in 2003. There are stargates everywhere, really, and many of them are created by our own technology here.
Okay. But are you aware of any specific stargates? In other words, leading, for example, do you believe that there is such a thing as enlightenment or an ascension out of this dimension, this density?
Of course, there's such a thing as enlightenment. Ascension has gotten a connotation which I think has been skewered because of the New Age. Anyone has the ability to transcend themselves at any point. You don't have to wait till 2012. You don't have to be in Sedona. You don't have to do any kind of magic. You have to open up your own mind and connect to the oversoul and God mind within you. Then you can ascend and do and be, as perfect as you can be. Unfortunately, I don't see many people on this planet doing such things. I see quite the opposite.
Sure.
The thing is, the bottom line is, we need to take control of ourselves, and it needs to start with each individual. And, again, I go back to the point, like, who cares who's out there